Hello, welcome to Kissa Bazaar. I am Aastha Srivastava, and as I told you, this is the place where you get to hear real life stories. The first story on our channel is Santosh. You must have already heard the first part, in which I narrated how a beautiful woman named Santosh was caught with her lover in the dead of the night at a school. Now let's take the story ahead. Hearing the commotion, other people from nearby areas also came to the school. They managed to rescue the boy, who was caught with Santosh, from the gang of older boys who were attacking him. He took his trousers and fled to the other side of the school. Perhaps it was the most important and fastest run of his life, because he disappeared in a blink. To find out who was behind the fuss, an old man focused his flashlight towards those women, and suddenly Santosh's half-naked body shone in that light. To save her from any more embarrassment, the old man switched off his flashlight. A middle-aged woman from Santosh's neighborhood saw her condition and tried to rush to her for help, but that gang of angry women would hear none of it. They were adamant about taking Santosh home as she was. Seldom does anything good come out of patriarchy. On that night, it did. Some wiser men instructed those women to leave Santosh alone. They complied and let go of Santosh, who kept staring at the ground for a long time while standing still. She realized that she would have to bear that cross for the rest of her life. Her reputation has been ruined forever in that neighborhood. Perhaps she also feared that she would never be able to step out of her house freely ever again. But her biggest worry was if her husband would ever take her back in that house. Santosh's neighbor helped her walk away from that school. The middle-aged woman escorted her home, and all along the way, she kept chiding and advising her. Santosh kept walking towards her house quietly. The neighborhood, on the other hand, kept berating her. Electricity had come back by now, but instead of going home, people kept talking about the couple that was caught. I heard a lot of gossip as I returned home from the school ground that night. Whatever happened in the school veranda was not going to happen every day for a boy my age. Not just me, it wasn't usual for anyone present there. It was not an everyday event. That night left a profound effect on me. Even now, some or the other news reminds me of the events of that night. I don't know if Santosh did the right thing by sleeping with that boy, but the way she was humiliated, with her clothes ripped off in public, cursed and assaulted, that cannot be justified by any means. No serious human being can justify it. It was inhumane and barbaric, and no one in their right mind will defend it. A few days must have passed after that accident, and that boy, who was caught in the darkness with Santosh, was seen again. He moved around freely, and whenever someone would remind him of that night, he would just blush lightly and smile. His parents went about claiming that it was natural for boys that age to make mistakes. Maybe they were right, because it is wrong to ruin an ordinary woman's life just because you can get away with it. It just didn't feel right to me. Sadly, I never saw Santosh again, neither at that ground nor in the courtyard of her own house. There was news that after making her go through many beatings and verbal abuse, her husband allowed her to stay with him. About 8 or 10 years must have passed since this event. My friends and I hardly spoke about it again, and moved on with our lives. Once, I had come back home from Delhi for a break. As a habit, I was reading the newspaper in the afternoon while sitting outside a pawn shop. That was when I saw a familiar woman coming from far away. The shape of her body had become tubby, and she looked unkempt. She no longer wore bright clothes, but her radiant complexion was still intact. Yes, that was Santosh. It was strange to see her walk down that road with her eyes bent, not looking anywhere else. I saw her walk with so much hesitation. Then it felt like it was just last night when she stood half naked and dismayed, surrounded by a frenzied crowd. I was lost in my thoughts so much that I didn't realize when she had walked past me. I looked around and saw other men at the shop looking at each other and smiled knowingly. Friends, the author of this story, Dilip Kapse, saw this painful incident happen to Santosh in his childhood. Even after so many years, he feels people around him haven't changed and hold the same double standards. Our society is merciless in many ways. We are often and unnecessarily judgmental. Even today, we find that young couples are harassed in many small cities and towns in the name of moral policing. These couples are blackmailed using videos and the girl is assaulted. If we were to be a part of a progressive and conscious society, we have a responsibility to not inflict our opinion on someone's personal relationships. Whenever you see a crowd harassing couples, you must protest. If necessary, report this gang to the police. Such incidents stigmatize our society. They do not make it better. So friends, this story of Santosh has come to an end, but this series of stories in Kissa Bazaar is not going to stop. Don't forget to like and share our stories. Also subscribe to this channel. Allow me to say goodbye and meet you again with a new chapter and a new story on Kissa Bazaar.